Hey folks, choosing a tactical medical school. It's what we're going to talk about today on TacMed TV. Hey folks, Steve here with TacMed TV. Today we're going to talk about choosing a tactical medicine school. This came about because I had a question from one of the earlier videos that was asking advice on how to get into tactical medicine, and I thought, well, let's just do a video on picking the school, and we'll kind of talk about things you can do to get into that role. And to me, one of the biggest things you can do to get into the role of a tactical medic is go to a good school that's going to give you the foundation to build upon as you continue to learn and take other classes and draw information in from other sources. Okay, so now I do want to go ahead and stress this. This is just my opinion, okay? Doesn't really mean anything. It's not going to get you anything. But it's an opinion that I formed over 14 years of work in law enforcement special operations. Okay, I've done operations with local, state, and federal law enforcement, different types of call-outs, different types of operations, whether it's drug warrants, high-risk search warrants, barricades, hostage rescues. I've been there and I've done that. But again, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just my opinion. Okay, so what I encourage you to do is after you watch this video, research it for yourself. If you're interested in this, research it for yourself and come to your own conclusions. Okay, that's what I encourage you to do. This is just the first step or a step in traveling down your path to get to where you want to be. Okay, talk to the people that are around you that are already doing this job and get their opinions and find out what they have to say about it, and then start to formulate your own. Okay, don't just take it from one source or two sources or even three sources. Ask around, do your research, and come up with some good information and make your own decision. Okay, outstanding. All right, getting into choosing a school, there are some things that basically that need to be covered. Okay, that just the basics of tactical medicine that need to be covered. And one of those is, to me, I think it needs to be at least a 60-hour minimum class. Okay, these 1 or 2 day classes that you see, those aren't tactical medicine schools. Okay, that might be a tactical medicine course where you're learning trauma care, but you're not learning the other things that you need to know to work effectively with the team and be that resource for the team commander that he's going to count on you to be. Okay, so to me, 60 hours minimum. Get into a course where they're going to talk about the tactical and the medical gear that's used during the tactical operations. Okay, so you can start to fine-tune what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you. Are you going to have to build multiple kits for multiple scenarios? That's what I had to do. Moving forward with that, make sure that you get the fundamentals of tactical operations, that you can effectively coordinate team movements and what that means. All right, learn the basics of team movement. Make sure that's covered in your school. Make sure that they're covering chemical agents, your CN, CS, OC, pepper spray type stuff. Make sure they're covering noise flash distraction devices, and make sure they're covering easy for me to say, less lethal. Okay, tasers, the 40mm launcher, beanbag rounds, that type of stuff. Make sure they're covering that stuff, and make sure they're also going into the potential wound aspects of less lethal. Okay, so you can be prepared to treat those injuries. All right, if you're working with a canine, or if there's a potential to be working with canine, make sure you get some canine emergencies built into your course. Okay, now you're just going to get some basic rudimentary stuff in your course. When you get back to whatever department you're going to be working with primarily, get with those canine officers, find out who their veterinarian is, contact that vet. Excuse me. Contact that veterinarian and see if you can come in and do some time and pick their brains. Okay, work with them and learn more about canine care. Okay, that's going to be a good relationship for you to build. All right. And then one thing that is really important to me is that you get something with forensics, and make sure that you get evidence preservation. Okay, make sure that there's a block of instruction on evidence preservation. You do not want to screw up a crime scene doing what you do, and some bad guy gets away with something because maybe you screwed up. Now maybe that's a little harsh, but I'm thinking worst case scenario. How would you feel if you did something to a scene that completely destroyed evidence that was going to send somebody really bad to prison? It wouldn't be a good feeling. So make sure you get a block of instruction on evidence preservation. All right. Next thing is wound ballistics. Make sure there's some basics on wound ballistics in there, because not everybody that's going to be a tactical medic is an EMT or a paramedic that's already had a trauma class on this stuff, whether it's ITLS or PHTLS or even TC3 or TECC. Make sure that wound ballistics are covered in there too. It's always a good refresher to have that stuff too. But keep in mind, you RNs, you PAs, nurse practitioners, and physicians, you all need to be going through the same course that EMTs and paramedics go through, okay? Just because you've got a more advanced degree doesn't mean that you all can't benefit from the same training if you're going to be working in this environment, okay? Make sure that you get ample opportunity to practice patient care skills, okay, in this environment. The big thing that I've always said is, and I've said this for a long time to anybody that's getting into tactical medicine, is that you should already know the medicine. If you're getting into this, you should already know the medicine. If you're an EMT or a paramedic, make sure you've been doing that for a while and you understand your job very well as an EMT or a paramedic. Make sure you're a really good street paramedic before you get into tactical medicine, okay? You should already know the medicine. You should be very comfortable with providing the medical care. The only difference is it's the environment in which you may be giving that care, okay? That's the only difference. I remember, even all those years ago running through, the school, one of the schools that I went to, the medicine was the same. It was the environment that was different. You're still going to manage bleeding. You're still going to manage the airway. You're still going to manage whatever. It's all the same. It's just the environment in which you're doing it in. And if you've got those patient care scenarios in your school, then that helps you to get your mind moving in the direction of, okay, I'm in this environment. How am I going to do this? How am I going to make this happen? So you need to have that, okay? So make sure that they're getting plenty of hands-on scenarios in your school. Weapon systems familiarization, to me that's kind of it's a good to have, but if you're going to be primarily working with a team, that's going to be your primary team, they're going to take care of your weapons familiarization. If they don't, they should, because you need to know as a tactical medic, whether you're armed or unarmed, part of the department or civilian, third service medic, whatever, you need to know how to work every weapon system that they have, okay? In case something really bad happens and stuff has gone sideways, you need to know how to operate those weapon systems, if for no other reason than to make them safe. But you need to feel comfortable with those weapon systems. All right, the other stuff that you need are some street survival skills, just disguised weapons, that kind of thing. Have a block on there, or block of that in there, and that's something you're going to carry on the street with you in the back of the ambulance, okay? When you learn that kind of stuff, that, to me, that is one thing that it is incumbent upon you to go back and teach the other people at your service, all right, is to kind of get them to develop that mindset of keeping their head on a swivel and looking around and making sure that they're safe and they get to go home at the end of their shift, okay? So that's something right there that's to me is real important for you to pass on once you've learned it, is the disguised weapon stuff, what to look for, what to be aware of. Of course, another thing make sure they're covering is medical threat assessment. Just did a video on that. If you haven't seen it, I'll put a link to it. Actually, it won't be over here, it'll be over here. I'll put a link to it up here in the card. Very important to do that. The other thing that kind of goes with that is your air medical stuff. Get with your local air med people. Nowadays, you've got some big ones around there. You've still got PHI, you've got Air Methods out there, Air Evacs pretty much everywhere now. Get with your local, whatever your local air med care person, whoever your flight service is, get with them, talk with them. Shoot, even have them come out one day to training once you get with your team and let the team see, because everybody loves helicopters, man. Everybody loves helicopters. So get your team, to start meeting faces and putting names with faces. Okay, it's always a good thing when we can network and do that. But make sure your school covers that stuff so you can at least have an idea of what to ask your local flight crew when it comes time to set up a training for your team. Okay. And it never hurts to get an idea of some flight physiology as a tactical medic. If you're going to be flying people out, you're working in a remote area, and you may have to fly somebody, it's a good idea to have a working knowledge of flight physiology. Okay, make sure, and this is something that has very rarely been used. Maybe in my years doing it, maybe 2 or 3 opportunities to do this, and all 3 of them got nixed before it really got rolling good. But that's medicine across the barricade, and that's something you've got with a hostage situation, and that's something you actually work with crisis and negotiation team members with, CNT. But you need to have an understanding of what that is and get the basics of what that is, and then when you get back and you start working with your SWAT team or your SRT or your CRT, whatever they're called, find out who's doing CNT, find out who's doing your crisis negotiations, and go work with them on that. And then the last basic thing I can think of that you really need to know, and this is one of the things that really lets us prove our worth to the team, and that is team health management. Okay, that is taking care of your people, your operators on your team. That is building that trust with them. You know, I'm lucky on the team that I lead. We've got a physician on the team, and we do some try to do it twice a year, at least once a year. Do a medical screening kind of thing with his discretion, with the doc's blessing, saying, hey, fill this little sheet out, have them go over it, just so we know. Kind of like the medical information card stuff that I did the other video on, and I'll put a link to it in the card up here. But it's kind of the same kind of stuff. We keep it double locked under 2 locks, 2 keys, make sure that's protected. And so we can, if God forbid something happens to one of my officers, we've got information. They can't speak for themselves, we can speak for them, okay? And that's another thing that kind of goes into team health management, is if you do have an officer injured, you need to be that officer's advocate. Okay, you need to be that go-between between the medical world, the police world, and his or her family. All right, you need to be the translator for the medical jargon to everybody else. Okay, so the family understands what's going on, if need be, if you need to be in that role. All right, now some of the advanced stuff. Now this is getting a little bit trickier with some things, I guess you could say, because this is getting into some stuff that you should handle at your team level, but it never hurts to get a little outside information on that. And one of those things is trauma pain management. How are you going to perform pain management with your officers in your role as a tactical medical provider? How are you going to make that happen? Get a background on that so you can advocate one way or the other, okay, on how your team is going to do that. Of course, you need, all the terrorism stuff, the bioterror, nuclear, the whole weapons of mass destruction gambit, okay? Need to get a background in that. Advanced airway in the austere environment. I remember going through my class years ago when I was talking to one of the instructors about low light and no light intubation, and they really slammed it. And it's like, look, we're in the civilian world. We're not really going to be, he never did say that there wasn't a time that it couldn't happen and that you don't need to have some type of training in place for it. But in the 25 years that he'd been doing it, really hadn't had that opportunity. So I kind of, you need to practice different ways, seek it out, find out what's going to work for you, and move down that path, okay? We do some limited stuff with it, but you decide what you're going to need, get with your medical director, and find out what's going to work for you and your team. All right, make sure, since we talked about low light, make sure you get in some low light operations. Okay, again, this is something that's usually handled at the team level, but you've got some courses out there that will offer this. Okay, so make sure you're getting some nighttime operations in. Make sure you've got a course that is covering environmental injuries when it comes to heat and cold exposures. Okay, and two other things, and this was a big one for me, sports medicine. Now, I'm real lucky where I'm at because we have a major university here, and we were lucky enough to get with the head athletic trainer and actually work with him some, and it was fabulous. As a matter of fact, it's about time for us to do that again, and that's always a good time because you get to learn some things that are a little bit different than just, you know, emergency care. All right, so seek that stuff out. See if you can find a course that has that in it, and then roll with that. And then probably one of the last things I want to touch on is extended field care. See if they've got scenarios where you're going to be stuck somewhere for a little while. Okay, we've done some trainings like that here with my team that we work with, where we have basically maybe like a barricade that kind of goes sideways. We've got some casualties, and then maybe the bad guys moved into another part of the building, and now he's re-barricaded, but we've got casualties here, but for some reason we can't evacuate them out, yada yada yada. So we have to sit in, you know, in a spot for a little while and do patient care. All right, get some background in extended field care. Okay, get with your medical directors, get with your physicians, get with your PAs, your nurse practitioners, whatever, and start working on that and start working your head around that. Okay, and then I guess in closing with my list is start learning, and this is addendum stuff. Okay, this is just tack on. Get a class in nutrition, get a class in preventive medicine, and start looking real heavily at primary medicine. Okay, one of the things I did recently is I went through a community paramedic course to get that background in preventive medicine and some primary care medicine. Okay, and believe me, it has helped. Okay, so that might be even something you want to look at. Look into community paramedicine. I think it's for the tactical medic, I think it's a natural fit. And that's probably going to get some laughs from some people that I work with, but I think it's a natural fit. So anyway, one thing I will tell you is be cautious of anything that just says tactical on it. And I've talked to, and I'm probably getting ready to say something that's going to be considered a cardinal sin, but I don't care. The TC3 stuff, the Tactical Combat Casualty Care, it's developed for the military, and I've talked to actually a lot of military guys, because where I'm at, I'm between two big bases. One of them in particular, you may have heard of, it's called Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I've got some friends down in that part of the world, friends that were 101st, that were medics with the 101st. I've got friends that were Navy corpsmen, and I've talked to all of them, and they all kind of view TC3 as the same thing. It's something really great for the military, which it is, but it hasn't really translated well into the civilian world. Okay, and apparently somebody else at the National Association thought so as well, because now they have the TECC, the Tactical Emergency Casualty Care, and from what I've seen of it, it looks really good. Okay, that's something I think is going to meld right into the civilian world. I think it's going to be great. I haven't had an opportunity to take it yet, so I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, just be careful, do your research, look around. I'll put some links in the description box below for some different schools that I found on the internet that I thought might be good. That by no means is an inclusive list, so do your own research, look around and see what you can find. So anyway, moving forward, get out there and look this stuff up, people. You know, if you're interested in this field, it's a lot of fun. You're going to get a lot out of it. You're going to get all kinds of life experiences out of it. It's just a great way to earn a living. Okay, so with that being said, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave me a like. And if you didn't, tell me why you didn't like it. If you did like it, tell me why you did like it. If you've got any questions, leave them in the description box below. So anyway, right now, let's see where I'm at. Let's put the let's see, it'll be kind of over in here. We'll put the what's that thing called, the subscription button, because if you haven't subscribed yet, I really wish you would. I would greatly appreciate it. And then I'll put some other videos probably around in here somewhere for you guys to check out, playlists. But with that being said, my name is Steve with TacMed TV, telling you guys to stay safe.